So when I think about like the Jason Segel movie, and Jason Segel's the only one who remembers the Muppets from back in the day in his small town. Well, that actually rang really true for me, being like from Ohio, and like I didn't have any friends who were Muppet fanatics. I didn't find those people until the internet came about, and I moved to New York City, and I found a community, and like that's what the end of that movie could have been, and maybe you can interpret it as such, where the Muppets do this telethon, and the people come out of the woodworks. There are fans out there. They're just not the Star Wars fans. There's not millions and millions of them, but there's enough that could, help you with the telethon or show up with the signs at the end of the movie.
Yeah, there's a crowd of them.
Yeah,
on Hollywood
that's
Boulevard.
us. That's us.
Welcome back to Puppeteers. We're your hosts, Adam Krutinger
and Cameron Garrity.
And on the show today, we have Ryan and Joe from ToughPigs. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Absolutely, it is so good to have you here. I'm fanboying a little bit because ToughPigs has been such a huge part of my life and my fandom with the Muppets and with all things Jim Henson. So for anybody who doesn't know, Joe and Ryan are the co-owners of ToughPigs.com. Joe is the editor-in-chief and Ryan is the head writer over there, and we're so excited to talk to them all about Muppet journalism. So Joe and Ryan, welcome to Muppet.
We're using bunny ears journalism.
Yeah.
By the way, I do want to say, like, it's always weird to me, and it doesn't happen that often, but it's always weird to me when someone's like, "Oh my God, I'm such a fan of you," like you just said, like you're fanning out over us. It's like, first of all, you shouldn't be.
No.
we're fanning out on behalf of everyone else. Like that's the content that we create is this fan base stuff that I don't know. It's I don't think there's like a degree removed.
It
right?
also reminds us how old we are. That people have been growing up reading things that we've written. So.
Oh man, I didn't think about that. That someone, when they were like, if they read it when they were, I don't know,
like
10 years old. Yeah, like exactly. They probably have kids by now.
That's not impossible.
Oh,
yeah.
Man. Oh, I hate that.
This is a terrible idea. We're quitting the website.
You realize, yeah. Oh no, no! I remember being in high school, and I want to say I remember like having to go to like stoptheblock.com to go to ToughPigs and read your articles on like why Menomina is so important. When I was in study hall in high school, so it's
I think I read that one.
Yeah, it's such a great site.
That was a long time ago.
I think you did.
Yeah. It's funny, and I have a little bit of a different experience with it too. Coming to puppetry a little later, coming to puppetry not through the Muppets is really how I came to it. I kind of reappreciated the Muppets later in my puppetry career, and my very good friend Zach Homiser, who I'm not sure if you know him at all.
Yeah, we know Zach.
He's the one who first told me about. Oh yeah, he's the first one who told me about ToughPigs, and because I know there was other Muppet fan sites and stuff too, but they all have like the word Muppet in it. And he's like, "Oh, ToughPigs is the one." I'm like, "ToughPigs." I'm like, "Why do they call it ToughPigs?" I'm like, "What is this?"
Well,
you'd be shocked to know there's a Muppet character called Miss Piggy.
Yes.
Well, no, I know that.
It's actually it started as
like it's not. What I love about it is like it's not that on the nose, right?
Yes, but in more recent years, it's been like sort of our curse because it's hard for Google to
SEO.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's not going to be the first thing that comes up when you type Muppets.
It's definitely it's this.
We have the same problem with our podcast.
Oh, sure, yeah.
We have the same problem with our podcast because Apple would not, if you typed in puppetry, our podcast would not come up. Because it was called Puppeteers, and then we spelled Puppeteers differently. So what we added we already had the subtitle, but we added it to the RSS feed and the show name. So like a puppetry podcast or whatever. I don't even remember what it is. Now it shows up. So that's.
But having the name ToughPigs is such a double-edged sword because like you said, you came to it because someone said, "Oh my God, you got to do this. You got to check out this thing." So our core audience ends up being these diehard fans who they found us and look at all this great content and there's something really special about that. But of course, we want to be able to grow as a website, and not having the word Muppet in our name is really makes it much harder. there's of course like, I mean,
Why you guys acquired the Muppet mindset.
That's well, that didn't help us much because we didn't take we're not using their name. We just took their content and their owner.
Fair enough.
But I mean, we can go into the whole story of like how ToughPigs started, which includes the origin of the name, if that's where you want to go with this.
Sure.
Yeah, I would. I was going to ask that too.
I would love that, but I would first actually just love for people who maybe don't know, and I can't imagine there's too many people who listen to us who don't know of you guys, but can you just describe for someone who's never heard of toughpigs.com, can you kind of quantify what your site is for someone who may have never heard of it before? And what is unique to you guys versus the other websites that have Muppet?
Right. Well, when it first started, when it was founded by our friend Danny Horn, the tagline was Muppet. Well, he would switch taglines, but he did Muppet fans who grew up, and then Muppet fans with bad attitudes.
There's also something about for the discriminating doll wiggler.
Yeah.
Like
so
yeah.
We are a Muppet fan website, and we try to inject a lot of our own personality into everything we write. So when there's something to report on, a news item, we try not to just say, hey, Kermit is going to be on this TV show. We try to put in like a little bit of maybe snarky commentary in there somewhere. So I would say, yeah, a Muppet fan website with personality.
We do news, we do silly commentary, we do interviews with the performers and the writers and et cetera, the artists. We do art spotlights. We're getting into doing a lot of podcast work, and like you said, we use the word journalism with air quotes, but there is like one part journalism and one part we're making stuff up, and not to the point of like fan fiction. We don't do anything like that, but we do try to I wrote an article not too long ago about New Zealand's mustache and why is his mustache like that, and like that's not news. I don't know. It doesn't feel like news.
Right. Yeah, we try to balance like legitimate commentary with silliness.
Yes. Or snarkiness, or like sometimes we can.
You even have like the double news feed on your website for like there's a news section and then the commentary and sort of everything else.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah, we try to keep. So years ago, I mean, we're bouncing around in history right now, but like years ago, we had a blogger style website, which was just every article in a row, and that was it. So if we wanted to like say work on an article that was really important to us, maybe it would take like a week to assemble and write and source the photos and et cetera, et cetera. And then the next day we had like, hey, there's a new DVD coming out. Well, that very short DVD article just pushed this hard work down the page, and it's gonna be a little bit hard for people to find. Yeah. So it was really important to us when we redesigned the site way back in 2009 that we had a very like a specific like this is just for the news and everything else is our what we call our feature articles.
Right. No, that's yes. I that design change. No, it's one. But it's important and it speaks to what you guys are creating. No, that's wonderful, and especially when those DVDs end up like they announce that they're happening and then they never actually happen, it's got to hurt even more.
I'm still waiting for Julie Andrews' One Step into Spring.
That's true.
Where's my copy of that?
The fun thing about
that's exactly what I was thinking of.
That's hilarious.
The fun thing for us is when stuff like that happens, then we have full reign to go online and slam it. Like, where the heck is this thing? And we can get upset about it in a funny way, in a fun way.
Right.
We don't want to actually ruffle any feathers, especially with the big three, Henson, Sesame, and Muppets. But like that's the voice that we've built over the last 2 decades, and we have the ability to call them out on it if we have to,
and like solicit fake DVD covers and all those wonderful things.
We haven't done that in a while. I guess that's because DVDs don't really.
No,
there aren't as many DVDs as there used to be. But
what's a DVD?
Yeah. No, but you know what? We probably are due for a like the actual like landing pages on Disney Plus, because some of those are not wonderful. Especially I think was it the Muppets TV show has artwork from the Muppets movie, or
that's right,
or vice versa. I forget which.
And it's a scene from the film that they used for the TV show the TV show. And then there's also the I mean, this is a problem I've had. I'm going to complain about this, even though this is not what we're talking about at all. I wrote an article a year or two ago about the Muppets' use of their own stock photos and how it seems like they did one photo shoot like 10 years ago and they've never taken a photo of a Muppet since. And it's the same, like, you know what I'm talking about. It's the, like Kermit with his arms crossed. It's the animal where his head is kind of sideways. It's Fozzie Bear looking kind of sheepish. It's the Swedish chef doing the OK sign, which looks like he's holding a joint. I understand that it costs money to get the armatured puppets out and to take photos of them and do a whole shoot, but like to not do it for like a decade.
Well, and they're just photoshopping the same.
They photoshopped fake Kermit hands
in
onto the Studebaker on the Muppet movie.
Yeah,
those hands don't exist on that photo puppet.
So it's the same thing here. Where we know that like when the Muppets are on set, you could take a photo of them whenever you want, but they're reusing these photos in their advertising. Yeah. Like even for the Muppet
from
Show.
their perspective, I'm sure it's like these are fake creatures. It's not like an actor that's gonna age 10 years and like we need a new photo because they look different. They have a different haircut or something like that.
That's what kills me is that they. Well, there's that, but they also, like, the Muppets do age because when you put a picture of, like, 2015 Gonzo next to 1989 Rizzo, like, people notice, like, well, not Muggles, but, like,
they do.
The fans who are their core constituents.
They do notice, and I'll tell you why you're wrong, Adam. You're wrong. It's because of Muppets Most Wanted. And here's the thing, Muppets Most Wanted, if you look at any of their posters, with the exception of the Humans and Constantine, every picture is recycled from older photo shoots, some of them just from the 2011 movie. And I truly believe that when people saw those advertisements, they subconsciously thought, like, well, it's just the same old thing. It's just the Muppets they're just here again. It's not a big deal. We just saw this a couple years ago.
Movie 3 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think that, like, subconsciously people are picking up on this. Like when we see, and again, there's only a few pictures that get used over and over and over again. Like, people know.
And this is the kind of complaining that you can enjoy if you check out toughpigs.com.
But funnier, faster and funnier.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Oh my god.
You dial it up a little bit when it's in writing. No, and I'd love to talk about kind of your relationship with being able to be sort of curmudgeonly fans while also having a relationship with, as you call it, the big three, because that's something we've dealt with to a certain degree as well. But would love to, as you teased, kind of get into the history of ToughPigs a little bit first, and also how you guys came into the fold. So can you kind of talk us through that history a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, it was founded by our friend Danny Horn in 2001. So yes, this is our 20th anniversary, which is crazy. He had been, years before, he had been writing, publishing, editing, doing everything for a Muppet fanzine, which
stapling, stamping,
shipping. That's back in the day, that's what you would do to connect with fans like that. So it was, he basically putting together a Muppet fan magazine that would go out every couple months. So in the web era, then he decided to found a website. He had been on Muppet Central and contributing over there, and then kind of decided, like, I could do this for myself. At the beginning, he ran everything completely by himself, and it was very, like, everything was written in Danny's voice, which I feel like we're always sort of like trying to keep that in the back of our head. Like, let's not forget that sort of crankiness or that sort of sense of humor. And then after several years of that, he became one of the co-founders of Muppet Wiki, which has now grown into this amazing thing, which has like every piece of information you could ever hope to find about any Muppet, anything.
An incredible resource.
So he didn't have as much time to work on the website anymore. So the short version is that Joe and I kind of just took over.
Yeah. So just to kind of like backtrack 2 seconds was, Ryan and I were both, obviously, we were huge fans of ToughPigs in the early days, avid readers. We were also both subscribers to Muppet Zine when in the print edition. And we met through the ToughPigs forum, which is still in existence. There at the time was a really tight community of Muppet fans, and I had moved to New York City in 2004, and then in 2006 Ryan was considering moving here, and he was writing to me to say like, how'd you do it, how'd you move state to state? And I said,
do you have any advice on where I should live?
Yeah. And I said, I got this roommate that I would love to not have as my roommate anymore. I said, if we time it right, you could get here and he could skidoo.
Wait, were you actually kicking him out, or was he already
No,
leaving?
well, the original, this is not really important to the story, but he and I were looking for a different apartment.
Yeah, okay, that's
two
how I
separate
remembered
apartments.
it, yeah.
Because Ryan and I did go apartment hunting. And then the long version of that story is the other guy just left and Ryan just moved in. So Ryan and I lived together for a few months, and obviously like our apartment exploded with Muppet stuff, and we're always watching some Muppet stuff on TV. Like we had a lot of like literally every toy we owned was out on the shelf because we didn't need girlfriends.
We would record Sesame Street.
Just a bunch of Walters living together, style.
Exactly. We would literally record Sesame Street every day and then watch it when we got home from work.
It's true. Yeah. That was the kind of life we lived. We were quite the Bert and Ernie. And so at some point, Danny, this is during that year between after he had
started
kind of stopped. Yeah, he started the Muppet Wiki and he stopped updating ToughPigs. And he was in the city visiting. So he's here in our apartment and we're hanging out. And Ryan and I said, are you ever going to do this again? He's like, I don't know. We're like, well, what if we did it? What if we just took it over? And we kind of expected Danny to say like, well, it's kind of my baby. I feel it's really personal to me. I mean, I'll help you if you want to start your own thing. But he was immediately like, yes, take it. And he signed all the stuff over to us, give us, access to all the domain and web hosting stuff, and, helped us figure out like how to actually get started. And the original concept was not going to be that it was just me and Ryan. We had a team of people who all agreed, like, yes, we're all going to do this together. And we were kind of like, yeah, all you got to do is like write one article a month, and then that's it. The site kind of runs itself. And then of course, everyone else who thought they were going to make time for this did not, and it was just me and Ryan. But the fact that we lived together in those early years really helped because we were always able to just like, we're sitting around doing nothing. Well, do you want to work on an article together? Do you want to watch some obscure video and then one of us can write about it? Or do you want to brainstorm what the next big ToughPigs thing could be? So that really, I don't know if we would have been able to do what we did if we didn't have all that time together. And then the next phase in the whole ToughPigs story, I credit in 2008. I was let go from my job, and that was the beginning of the recession. So I had a long stretch of unemployment, and near the beginning of that stretch, the Muppets happened to be filming Letters to Santa here in the city, and someone
in Brooklyn, in the same borough where we live.
Right, yeah, we live in Brooklyn. They were filming in Brooklyn Heights, and someone had taken a photo. Not even someone in our community, which is like someone out in the wild, took a photo of one of those signs they put on the telephone pole that says like, this street's going to be closed because they're filming something with the Muppets. And I was like, well, I got nowhere else to be.
This is before Facebook, before Twitter. Well, I mean, I guess Facebook was around, but
yeah,
we saw it on like the website of the Brooklyn Daily Eagle or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was some Brooklyn blog.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I got nowhere else to be. I might as well just go. So I just, went and I stood on the street corner and I watched as they filmed. If you watch Letters to Santa, it's the scene where they're going into the post office. So they were using this old brownstone and they kind of redecorated it as a post office. And
you were there when Michael Bloomberg showed
Mayor
up?
Bloomberg was there.
Yep, I saw Michael Bloomberg. That was interesting. It was basically like a big black car came and then he and his people jumped out and they shot for all of a minute and a half. And then they took 2 photos with the puppets and then jumped right back in the car and they were gone.
And one of the writers, I believe, or somebody told you that role was originally written as...
Remind me.
You told me this. Okay.
Yeah, remind me.
That in the script, it was not written as mayor of New York City or specifically as Bloomberg. It was written as handsome male celebrity.
That's right.
And I think the idea was...
I guess they couldn't find any.
I guess the idea was that Piggy was going to sort of fawn over this celebrity who was going to suddenly be there, but they couldn't find any. So yes, they just popped in Mayor Bloomberg.
So I'm standing there. I watched them film for a few hours, And, you know, I was a young guy and I was really nervous around the Muppets at this point still. And I get to a point where I'm like, I should probably leave soon. I've just been standing here watching. And then Steve Whitmire takes Kermit. They're on a break. Steve Whitmire takes Kermit and he comes into the crowd. And Kermit's interacting with the kids and he's, you know, meeting people, whatever. And I muster up my courage and I tap him on the shoulder and I said, Steve, I just want to introduce myself. My name's Joe Hennes. I run this website called ToughPigs. He goes, ToughPigs? We love ToughPigs. He's like, come with me. And Steve takes me, you know, backstage. I'm using air quotes again with backstage. He takes me because it's really just like a tent.
Under a tent.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, all the Puppeteers are there, you know, Eric Jacobson and Peter Linz and Noel McNeil and Marty Robinson. And I don't really remember who else.
That production was kind of like, we got the impression that it was a little bit of short notice and it was kind of an all hands, like everybody in New York, quick, come to be on this production.
That very well could be, yeah. So I'm standing there and just like chit chatting with these guys that like they've been my heroes, like know exactly who they all are, and it's like it was such a thrill, and as you guys know because you've interviewed all of these folks, is like they're the nicest people. They were just so kind and generous with their time.
Oh yeah.
So I'm chit chatting with them. I meet Kirk Thatcher, who's directing. Kirk's like, come with me, and he's like, I stand with him as he's directing a scene, and you know he's, you know, being jokey Kirk Thatcher, which was hysterical. And at one point, someone realizes, oh, Bonnie Erickson lives nearby. She was not working on the project. So someone calls Bonnie Erickson to say, you should come over. And she walks over. And so now I'm hanging out with Bonnie Erickson, who now, I mean, she's just the greatest. Love Bonnie. So yeah, so I get to a point where I'm like, they're not kicking me out, but like I don't want to overstay my welcome. I'm gonna split, and so I'm saying goodbye to people. And Steve says, "Well, here we're filming for another few weeks, so why don't you come to the studio, and you know spend a day with us there, and we'll do like an interview or something." And I'm like, "Great!" So a couple of weeks later, Ryan and I brought Ryan this time, and we went to the studio. We filmed. If you watch Letters to Santa, it's some of the airport scenes. So we. So going through the X-ray machine, stuff like that.
We saw Pepe when he has to put his electronic devices in the bin, and he has a BlackBerry, Blueberry, a Raspberry, and a Halle Berry, which is like a phone with a picture of Halle Berry on it.
Yeah.
That took them so long to do. It was really interesting to see that because, you know, Pepe has his 4 arms. So I don't know if it was like 2 puppeteers or 3 puppeteers.
It was at least 3. It may have been 5.
It may have been
one
puppeteer
per
trying
arm.
to get him to hold these phones in his hand and then dump each one at a time without dropping all of them. And it took many takes to get that right.
We also saw Nathan Lane. Nathan Lane was
probably all
Nathan and
separate
Nathan Lane and
arms
Bobo.
Yeah, that was great. They were improvising a lot. There was some really funny stuff that was not appropriate to put in the movie. And then you know we did this long interview with Steve Whitmire, which was amazing. So all this is to say, not just to brag about being on set, but those 2 days I personally credit as the experience that turned ToughPigs into this fun little blog that we do because we like Muppets, into like an actual website where we're doing news and interviews and commentary and like making it robust. So over the course of the next year, we redesigned the whole site, and you know, we started recruiting some of our friends to like write for us once in a while, and like really like turning it, like I said, like more robust and you know more website than blog. You know, I think over the last couple of years we've been kind of updating that concept even more, but that was really like what turned ToughPigs into what ToughPigs is today.
Yeah. Well, and to have that buy-in, not only like knowing that there's the fan community and you could find people on the forums to live with or run the site with or whatever, but then to find out that the Puppeteers are fans and they're, you know, so welcoming and inviting, that had to just be a huge like sort of moral victory.
Oh my God, yeah.
In a lot of ways, like, and just be a huge boost to like, oh, this is a real thing.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing that always that always gives me like maybe the biggest thrill is when we cross paths with Dave Goles, and Dave always makes a point to tell us, I go to ToughPigs to find out what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like we get the news about like there's a new Muppet special coming out, and Dave's like, well, I guess they're going to be calling me in.
He found that out,
or whatever.
From reading.
Yeah, and also like some of these performers
That's
too.
amazing.
Like we're all aware, like we're all coming from the same perspective. Like we can watch a special. I'll give you a good example. We watched the Lady Gaga Christmas and the Muppets Christmas special, which if you've seen it, it's garbage. It's not good. And we said so. You know, we're honest on our website. So we wrote a review that said this is not good and here's why. And I won't name names, but we talked to a few of the puppeteers who said, right, like we're not saying, you know, like name a puppeteer is not a good performer. We're not saying that they phoned it in or they, you know, they
Okay, I don't think they ever
it.
do.
They never do. Right. So it's easy to not.
No,
to not
the
do
quality
that.
is never not
Right.
there.
But
we in terms of the art form,
we all have the same end game, which is we all want the Muppets to make the best possible product possible. And you know, they're performers for hire. They don't always have the control that they probably should have. So when we say this isn't good, we're signaling to Disney or Henson or Sesame that like the fans don't like this. This is not what you know they should be doing. And the performers,
one of these days, they're actually going to listen to us.
well, but at least the performers appreciate it to the point of like saying, yes, I'm so glad, because they can't say anything. You know, they just have to do the job because they want to keep getting hired. So there's this weird, you know, syncopatic relationship between us in that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is there ever, like, I'm sure there's, to some extent, you want to pull your punches, because it almost reminds me, just to compare it a little bit, to like a Star Wars fandom, and a lot of people say there's an aspect of that that's actually like toxic, right? To a point where they don't even support what they love anymore. They're so nostalgic of it that they can't appreciate anything about what's new, and you want to ride that line between being critical and honest without like making them not want to make, like, again, essentially George Lucas stopped making movies because of the fandom, right?
I mean, I feel confident that we're not the toxic fans. We're the vocal ones. You know, there are toxic fans out there. And,
of course.
We've talked about this several times, this thing of like, we do want to be honest. If we're reviewing something and we don't think it's good, or we don't think it is the best of what the Muppets can do, we should say that. We shouldn't pretend that we like it more than we do, because we're presenting ourselves to the world as, writing these honest critical reviews. But it does become a little bit different when you have, like, when you've met some of the puppeteers and when you've met some of the writers, and you don't want to, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and you're aware that they might be reading, but at the same time, you're trying to be honest.
Well, and also, like, it's not even just like, you know, we want to be friends with these guys. It's not that. It's the fact that like we want to continue to work with them. You know, I don't want to say, you know, performer X did a terrible job and then a month later say, hey, performer X, do you want to do this this interview with us? Or we put ourselves on set with them, and then suddenly like there's this weird relationship. We don't want that. But you know, we do have to be honest. That's part of journalistic integrity.
Yeah, I guess that's the point I was trying to make. Like, is there a point where you're too honest to a point where you don't get invited anymore, right?
And
if I'm too honest with my family, I might not get invited to dinner anymore, right?
Yeah, no, that's definitely something that's on our mind. And the flip side of that happens too, where there are times where we want to please them, or we got a really good experience. The example I always give is, I just said, we just spent 2 days on the set of Letters to Santa. Then I wrote a review raving about how great Letters to Santa is. Now, looking back, I didn't love Letters to Santa that much, but they treated me so well that experience bled into my opinion of the special. So that definitely goes both ways. We have to separate ourselves from the performers, from the experiences.
Yeah, when you're a part of it in some way, it's a different experience for you. Yeah.
So, you know, speaking to, in recent years in particular, maybe things that you don't like, what do you think makes a quality Muppet production, and what are some of the things that you guys point to that maybe are off the beaten path of like, that's the Muppets at their best?
Yeah, I've noticed that the more things we review, and especially the more classic things we review, which we just finished reviewing every episode of The Muppet Show in the week of its 40th anniversary, which was a very cool project for us. that
Yeah.
the more things you watch and really think about, it really gives you an idea of like what makes the Muppets work. And we talk a lot about these, like it should have comedy that's really funny. It should have music, and it should have heart, because we love it. You know, like that sort of sentimental side of the Muppets. I've also concluded recently that there should also be something weird. Like the Muppets are the Muppets when there's something very just something weird involved. That's the kind of stuff we love. Like Mana, people go crazy when they see that, because like, what even is that?
Well, the question is, who cares?
Exactly.
But no, but I think Ryan's 100% correct, and I will add on to that I don't know that we're necessarily the, like, you know, we're not necessarily the people to say like, here's what the Muppets should do, because we're always looking backwards. We're always
But we have
at,
opinions of our
of course we
our
do.
own favorite stuff.
But like, you know, we're always looking back at
Yeah.
what did the Muppets do and did it work? And we can obviously make our own assumptions of what would work. But the reason I bring this up is because I think there's been a lot of times in Muppet history where they've announced a project and we've said this is going to be great, and then they do it and we're like, we were 100% wrong. And like, of course I'm thinking of the 2015 Muppet sitcom, where it's like, you know, like the Muppets are doing an Office style parody, and we're going to look at their real lives, and I don't remember what else it was at the time that got us really excited, but it was just like, yeah, this is new and different, and the Muppets are going to be on TV again, and there was so much to be excited about. And then the show comes out and it's like, it's not like you did the things you promised you would do, but it's not very good.
Well, the idea was still good. I am very much in favor of the Muppets trying new things.
Right.
But it's just, I feel like it must be
Right.
impossible for the writers to strike that balance, because people want, there's such the pull of nostalgia of people want the Muppets to be the old things that they remember.
And also, you know, like they could announce tomorrow, you know, hey, we're bringing the Muppet Show back, and we would go, great, because that's the best thing the Muppets ever did. It fits all those criteria that Ryan just explained. It's gonna be perfect, and then they would do it, and it's like, well, this isn't what we want. This
it
feels
could
like
still be
it's
bad. Yeah.
this still, or it could feel like, I don't know, like it's not new or interesting because
Right.
you already did this.
Like they're just trying to do the thing
Yeah.
that they already did.
So I do agree with Ryan that like those criteria should be there, but I think more so the Muppets need to be doing need to be putting out material more consistently, so that they can kind of play, they can test, they can try things. Didn't work, well, we tweaked it, now it works. You know, not having to reintroduce the Muppets to audiences every few years will probably help.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that it's a weird thing to say out loud, but quantity may be more important than quality at this moment.
Yeah.
One thing that I always said, I said, assuming the performers would want to do this, like I feel like they should let each performer be in charge of like that character's social media, and like let them just like let their mind, at least on social media, right? And then in a way that can like build up these relationships. I can see like Bert commenting on like an Ernie tweet, and you know, Gonzo's such a TikTok guy, right? And Swedish Chef's got his own cooking channel, YouTube channel, and this one, Piggy's the Instagram model and whatever. And then having these relationships interact as if they're real characters. That's one thing that's unique about the Muppets, rather than other, you know, characters and cartoons, is that they exist in the real world like that, and like take advantage of that.
Yeah.
That's one thing that one thing I always think about a lot about, actually, is like what Jim Henson himself would be doing in this time. He was always someone who was always looking at technology and how to use it in a different way. Like I think Jim Henson would have been probably like the biggest YouTuber. I think he would have been like first to market, releasing full movies, Muppet movies, like on YouTube. Like I feel like that's something he would have done.
Yeah, you may be right. You know, we make a point to try not to you know, make those assumptions about what would Jim think, what would Jim do, because the truth is I mean, obviously we can't know, but the truth, especially when we're thinking about what would he do, is he would be doing something that we can't fathom. He would be taking things in
very
exactly
creative.
yeah,
right.
like I mean, it's easy to point to YouTube and social media because that's what's so hot right now. But I think Jim would be doing whatever we will be doing 10 years from now. That's what he would be doing now.
Yeah.
I
Well, that's what I say.
Well-
What everyone's doing now with social media, he would have done that in 2007,
I mean, he did,
2008.
right? He did.
He'd be on. Yeah, you're right. He'd be onto the VR by now or something.
You know about this like pre-YouTube video series he did?
I was just trying to remember what that was called.
Yeah, with what's his name?
With those comedians.
Gould. Gould.
Was it Dana Gould?
Dana Gould. That was it. Dana Gould. Yeah, it was basically like he gave a camera to these comedians and sent them on a road trip and had them record it while they went. And like he's basically creating this like what people do on YouTube now, just chronicling their real lives.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't know what they did with it. It was just kind of an idea.
I think I don't know if he had any specific plans for it.
Yeah.
But he was just always working on these,
It's
you know,
true.
these
Yeah.
new ideas.
I've never heard of that. Yeah.
Well, I just not to harp on it too much. I just think he would have been so fascinated with this, being able to make a whole movie on your phone, film it, edit it,
Yep.
upload it, and your producer in your pocket. And I just think that's something he would have grabbed onto, just being such an early film guy, seeing the potential in something like this.
Yeah,
again,
I completely
early
agree.
2000s.
Although I don't think that he would necessarily apply it to the Muppet characters, the Muppet Show characters, because, and I only say that because of like if you look at
He
the
was
last,
really moving away from
That's
that.
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, he was starting to move away from them in his later years. So when
Yeah,
you're,
that's a
so
good point.
I think these are two separate points. What Jim would have potentially done with social media and what the current performers would do with social media. And honestly, I don't think that they would be that interested in doing that. I think they're much more interested in putting the puppet on their arm and
Yeah.
creating sketches or doing improvs or writing stories, backstories or current stories for these characters to do. I would love to see them have more of a creative voice in whatever medium. It doesn't matter if it's social media or not. If they're taking over the social media, poor Ryan Dozier, he'd be out of a job.
It would be interesting,
That's true.
interesting
That's true.
experiment to bring them in a little bit more. But yeah, my suspicion would be that some of them would be interested in being involved in the social media accounts of their characters, and some of them just wouldn't really care that much.
Also, like I don't see Disney
of course.
wanting to pay. That'd be a lot of money to basically keep these performers on retainer.
Yeah.
To write, film, perform for something that technically doesn't get any return.
Oh yeah, well, especially we live in a world too. One wrong tweet could end. That's
Well, and in their case, unions and all that sort of stuff, like it gets real sticky real quick.
Sure. But
um,
also, just to be clear too, kind of meant in a way of like building up to something,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
if it was a planned campaign that they did for a year or two to build up to this. In the same way, like now you have to for the Marvel universe, right? You have to watch all these TV shows to have it all connect in the movies, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to follow all these accounts and see what they're doing to fully get the joke, right?
Well,
Type
so
of thing. I could see it building up to something.
in a realistic scenario, this sort of happened because the Muppets went onto YouTube and they did Bohemian Rhapsody and they did Ode to Joy and they did the chicken, classical chicken, whatever.
Gonzo.
Yeah, and like they did a few of these,
Right.
and people got really excited about the Muppets. Then Disney greenlit the 2011 Muppet
That
movie.
was there was those few years where they were sort of leading up to the Jason Segel movie.
Yeah, well, and I think that was an excellent example, as you said, Joe, about sort of quantity over quality. I mean, and those were all, for the most part, but like sometimes there'd be a month like, oh, I'm really excited because they just did Bohemian Rhapsody, and then the next month it's like, oh, it's a Swedish Chef thing. I could take it or leave it. But then the month after that, you get Flowers on the Wall or whatever. That was such an exciting time.
Yeah.
Because there was consistency.
Right, and the Muppets lend themselves to YouTube so well for all the reasons that Ryan explained earlier of the
gosh.
comedy, the music, the bizarreness.
Well, and that's where they come from, is doing like short, funny, weird musical bits, like sketches on Sam and Friends or sketches on the Muppet Show. That's what they're made for.
And it really helps to keep the Muppets in the zeitgeist, so we don't have to reintroduce them every few years. It's like they're always doing something. They're always out there. If you're a Muppet fan, you're going to keep seeing that Muppet stuff. And then we get your $18 for a movie ticket,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I have always kind of had a problem with the recent stuff is that in a lot of the projects of late, the Muppets are apologizing for being the Muppets in a lot of ways, like, you know, because they've disbanded or they're super poor and they're trying to, like, you know, kind of convince people that they should be getting watched. And it's just like, if you guys are given the TV show, like, just, you know, in their own universe, make the Muppets the biggest thing possible. Like, make them performing at the Super Bowl or like doing things where, like, kind of posture yourself as the thing, and people are gonna, you know, be excited by the fact that you have the vaudeville theater, or you're taking Manhattan, or whatever those things are.
The premise of the Muppet Show was that they were trying hard to put on a good show and
failing.
Not always succeeding. But
Right.
yeah, I guess it is a little extreme that the premise of the 2011 movie is that Jason Segel loved the Muppets when he was a kid, but now nobody likes the Muppets anymore,
Right.
and everybody's forgotten about them.
Well, I've always loved the conceit that the Muppets are in universe. Like, they're putting on this bad show. They are complete. Like, you got a bear that
But they
can't
keep trying.
a comedian bear that tells bad jokes. You got a diva who's, you know, obnoxious. You've got this weird artist that nobody understands. Like, I love this conceit, because not only does it kind of put us in like on their side of, like, yes, we're fighting for something consistently, but if they ever do something that's not good, they can just say, yeah, it's because this is a bad show. Like, oh yeah, we had these, like, talking houses telling these bad puns. That's because this is a bad show, not because we don't know how to write good puns, you know.
But then how do you explain it when they do have a really good
Right.
act on
No,
the
that's
show?
true.
But that's always the celebrity. Like, thank goodness Teresa Brewer is here.
Yeah.
You know, like, to
Thank
save
goodness.
us from going bankrupt. But the funny thing is that, and this is something that I think Ryan has talked about in the Movin Right Along podcast, which we'll talk about at some point. When the Muppets went from being the stars of this clunky TV show to becoming movie stars, and specifically Miss Piggy becoming the biggest movie star of all time, at least in her, you know, in her head, but treated as such, you know, treated like with the limos and the dresses and the fashion shows, and now she's this diva and not this struggling actor anymore. You know, I kind of think that, like, it might be smart. I don't know if this is true or not, but, like, it might be smart if they pulled that back, like, let the Muppets stay in that place where they're always going to be struggling, they're always going to be putting on that bad show or failing at what they do, and not let the characters get too big, because, like, I know Eric Jacobson's probably talked a bunch about how it's hard for him to keep up with Piggy as a star, because like, that's not really who she is, you know, like, in her backstory. Or like when Fozzie Bear is treated as this legendary comedian. Well, he's not. I mean, he is in the real world, but in his world, he's not.
Yeah, well, there are a few different planes of Muppet reality, and it is funny that, like, Piggy, who wanted to be a star on the Muppet Show, became a big star in our actual reality.
Yeah. So when I think about, like, the Jason Segel movie, and Jason Segel's the only one who remembers the Muppets from back in the day in his small town. Well, that actually rang really true for me, you know, being, like, from Ohio, and, like, I didn't have any friends who were Muppet fanatics. I didn't find those people until the internet came about, and I moved to New York City, and I found a community. And, like, that's what, you know, the end of that movie could have been, and maybe you can interpret it as such, where the Muppets do this telethon and the people come out of the woodworks. There are fans out there. They're just not the Star Wars fans. There's not millions and millions of them, but there's enough that could, you know, help you with the telethon or show up with
there's
the
tens and
signs
tens
at
of
the end of the
them.
movie.
Yeah, there's a crowd of them.
Yeah,
on Hollywood
that's
Boulevard.
us. That's us.
Yeah.
No, that's
Well,
a,
yeah, and,
that's
you know,
a
and
good
that's
point.
enough. I mean, look at, again, like
Right.
you said with Star Wars, and so many very niche markets have enough fans to sustain themselves. Kirk Thatcher, I'm gonna butcher what he said, but he made this Facebook post. I don't know if you saw it. He saw how many subscribers the Muppets have on YouTube. He's like, if each subscriber gave them $1 a year, he said he could produce a Muppet movie a year forever.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that people would love, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, let that happen, please.
People
Oh my
do
gosh,
really
that'd
love
be
the
great.
characters. It's nice to think that would translate to people actually going to see a movie.
But here's the thing: you talk about $1 a year, and you're right, $1 a year is not a lot. But I think that responsibility lies on Disney's side. So how is Disney getting that $1 a year from us? Well, they're not putting out any movies. They're putting out a TV show that's already been paid for through Disney Plus. They don't have much merchandise on the shelves. Hard to find a good T-shirt. Like, they could get my $1 very easily, but they kind of have to put a little bit of expense into it to begin with and get some good projects, good licenses, whatever.
But they're not going to make as much money back from that as they already are from Star Wars and Marvel. So
right. That's why they never do it.
Yeah.
But it baffles me that, like, even during, like, when the movies came out and they had an opportunity to do all this merchandising, it's like, yeah, Muppets Most Wanted's here, great, what can I buy from you? And it's like, well, if you find a Disney store, you can get a Constantine plush. And it's like, oh, that the one thing. Okay, cool. I mean, that's fine, but it could be more.
Yeah.
The Muppets have a hit, well, not that was a hit movie, but they have a big movie out, a big push. They for some reason never took advantage of those opportunities in recent years.
Yeah, well, I this is a deep cut with you guys, but I think you were on the Muppet Cast back in the day.
Yeah, we did a few of those.
Ryan, I think it was you who said, like, I want Disney to Pooh the Muppets.
To do what?
to Pooh the Muppets.
You said Pooh the Muppets?
And I think your point was that
that doesn't sound like
because what you explained was that Winnie the Pooh, you can buy anything from a little quarter size. You pay a quarter for a little foam thing that you put a Pooh on your antenna, or you could spend $2,000 on a mosaic, and they have everything in between for Pooh. That there are all these different things that you could buy and merchandise, and that funds whatever Winnie the Pooh thing they want to make.
I thought you were going to say, like, Disney's constipated with the Muppets, and they just need to release it.
That's
what I thought you meant.
It works on levels. It works on levels.
Okay, they just need to Pooh the
Winnie
Muppets.
the Poohing
Like,
the Muppets. Yes, that sounds good.
Ryan, I'm going to make you a T-shirt that just says Pooh the Muppets.
Yeah, just make sure you leave that H.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Available now for a limited time.
The problem, well,
and $1 of each product is going to Disney to produce Muppets.
yeah, but then
it's going specifically to Kirk Thatcher
to release the Muppets.
do it. But it does become, I think, a chicken or the egg kind of thing. Like, is Winnie the Pooh so popular because they keep making merchandise and keeping it in front of people's faces so people can never forget about Winnie the Pooh? And then they can make, I don't know. What are they doing with Winnie the Pooh now, though? Anyway, are they still making?
Actually, there's about to be an off-Broadway show.
True.
That's all puppets, which is actually really exciting.
Right. Okay, so then I was going to say,
also because we have friends who are working in it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, there's that too.
Not much.
Or does the merchandise exist because people watch the movies and TV shows and stuff, and then they want to buy the merchandise? But I guess if there was more Muppet stuff to buy, then I guess people would recognize the characters and they would want to see them in more things.
I mean, that's what I was talking about with, like, keeping them in the zeitgeist. Sometimes that means YouTube videos. Sometimes that means a TV series. Yeah. Sometimes it means a Funko Pop. Like, we just, like, get them out there somehow.
Yeah. I'm going to have to listen back to that episode of the Muppet though.
The Palisades toys. Yeah. The Palisades toys were such a big deal. And like you said, like, at least they were, like, present. You could walk into, I mean, there aren't media plays anymore, but you could walk into any, like, media play or toy store or whatever, and there's, an Uncle Deadly on the shelf before Uncle Deadly was even a popular thing.
I bought mine at Electronics Boutique.
Wow.
No, but you brought up a good point, and I'd love to talk about it a little bit more. I don't know if you guys have ever explicitly said this in your stuff, but I'm sure Adam and I say it all the time, of a Muppet project being a good Muppet thing, but not a good movie or TV show, or vice versa. Like, oh, that was a decent TV show, but it wasn't, like, super representative of the Muppets.
I heard a lot of people say that about the 2011 movie, that it was a good movie, but not a good Muppet movie.
And then vice versa with Muppets Most Wanted, of, oh, this is a great showcase of the Muppets, but it's not necessarily the best.
Well, we're big fans of Muppets Most Wanted.
Movie or plot or whatever.
Yeah, but I would argue,
Well,
Not the
it's
whole thing,
insane.
but parts of the 2015 sitcom. And the only reason I'm saying this is because Ryan and I did a short podcast series recently where we revisited the series with a series of interviews. And rewatching it and kind of remembering like, oh yeah, there's some really funny lines in here. There's some interesting concepts. As a whole, I don't think the show worked. I don't think it was a good show, Muppets or no. But there was stuff in there where it's like, yeah, like if this joke was in a series with human beings, it would be good.
Well, it was staffed by good, experienced comedy writers, so there are a lot of good jokes on that show.
Right. Yeah,
it was good jokes being delivered by characters that the general audience didn't want to see delivering those jokes, but yeah.
Well, and I also thought that show did a great job of sort of building out the Muppets backstories, like, and you could sort of take or leave what you liked or didn't like about it, but it did feel cool to see them. I got the sense of like, oh, this is like some of the homework that the Muppeteers have done, and they're finally able to kind of showcase it a little bit.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think that there's a lot of contention about that between the fans. Like some would agree and some would not. For example, like let's look at Scooter for a moment. Like I personally love the backstory they wrote for Scooter, turned him into a little bit more of a neurotic character. He's got this history with his mom and his stepdad, and it's like I like that Scooter isn't just the guy who holds the clipboard, and they added a lot for him, and I felt like it worked,
making him more of a character.
Yeah, and some people didn't like it.
I liked the mom stuff, but I didn't like the
Ken stuff.
Mom's boyfriend stuff. So
and then like
stuff.
you look at like Uncle Deadly, who we all know. Like they fleshed out Uncle Deadly in a way that he's never been fleshed out before, and now he's been like just catapulted.
I don't know anyone who's not happy with the way that Uncle Deadly became the star, like the breakout star of that series.
But they also did it without giving us any of his backstory. And we've interviewed Matt Vogel about this. I don't know if he's talked to you about this as well. But he like would see things in the script that would be about like, we go to Uncle Deadly's house and he's like, please don't. Like, please don't show us anything. Like, he works as a mystery. He works where you don't know, is he a monster? Is he a fashionista? Is he like, does he live in a cave or does he live in a fancy studio apartment? Like we want to keep these things separate so that whatever he says or does is in character for him.
I think it depends on the character for sure.
That's what I'm saying. It's like for some of them, like we do want to see,
right.
I didn't mind seeing, like we saw Kermit's house and he's got the little swamp in the background. Don't necessarily want to do that for like, I don't know, Yolanda. Like Yolanda's such an interesting, weird character.
Right.
Like as far as I know, she lives under her desk and that's hysterical.
Yeah, I don't think I want to see Chip's house.
Right.
From that series.
I don't think Chip sleeps.
No.
He can't really close his eyes. He just blinks.
He can just blink his
pupils. So I feel like he just has to sit there with his eyes wide open. So he might as well do it in his cubicle.
Right.
Oh my God.
If he has a home is even debatable.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah, we don't know. We don't want
that's
to
so
know.
true. Yeah. No.
One thing I wonder, what do you think? Like, I know this is it's probably gonna be a hard question for you guys to answer, but like, what in a perfect world, like, what would it take to make it? Do you think that they need to kind of listen to fans more? Do they need to listen to the performers more? Like, what would probably be that magic sauce to really get the kind of the perfect Muppet project?
The unfortunate thing is I feel like they can never please everybody at this point because everyone who grew up watching the Muppets has their own different idea of what the Muppets are supposed to be or should be or what makes a good Muppet thing. Like 10 different people can watch the same thing and be like, oh, that wasn't good because that had too much music in it. And then another person could be like, that was great. I love it. It had so much music in it. So they're really in a regrettable spot for that. And then like, I think maybe somebody on your podcast was talking about this, Joe, on to introduce our guest star, the fact that like they gave a Muppet movie to Jason Segel because he was famous and they thought that would bring people in. And then there was that project that we heard about that was co-written by Josh Gad with Kitsis and Horowitz. Would
Right.
like, do we really want? I mean, Josh Gad is great, but do we really want him to be writing the next Muppet thing just because he's famous and they think that having a famous person write a Muppet thing will make people perk up and pay attention to it?
Yeah, and this is part of why I say, like, it's hard for us to look forward and say what should the Muppets be doing, because you know, I hate to say the fans can't be trusted. The fans have a good idea of what they like, but only looking backward. So the question becomes, like, who is it that can say, you know, what should the Muppets be doing? And the easy answer is the performers. I think, you know, basically what the Muppets need, what the Muppet Show characters need, is they need their own Kevin Feige, the guy who runs the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They need,
You're right.
They need someone who can just say, like, okay, let's get everyone who.
Cam's like, are they taking applications?
Well, and they,
No.
But they
give it to Kirk Thatcher, or give it to.
But to say, like,
they-
someone who can like
Yeah.
gather
No,
the
there's-
people who have been working with these characters for a long time, and not just say, like, I need you to tell me everything that you want this character to do or be, or to backtrack to what they used to be or whatever it is, and then also have the you know, foresight to say, but we're not going to do that one. You know, like this is a bad example because this wouldn't happen. But if Eric Jacobson said, you know, I want to make sure that Miss Piggy is always wearing the fanciest clothes, you know, because she's this hyper diva, then, like, this person in charge might want to say no, because we need to pull her back. We need her to be someone that we can root for, not be afraid of, or not be too abrasive.
They haven't really had one, like, creative person in charge since Jim Henson. There've been, you know, CEOs and chairmen and people sort of in charge of the various divisions of various companies, but that's not necessarily the same thing as having one person making all the creative decisions.
Yeah, they need a creative director who has like a 10-year plan of, like, we're gonna do the series, we're gonna do the movie, we're gonna do all these little bits in between.
But then, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know who that would be, because then if you invest in a person like that and it doesn't work out, then you're kind of screwed.
Right.
But,
and I think there were people who've come and gone who we thought might be, like, we knew Jason Segel wasn't going to stick around, but, you know, we had James Bobin and Nick Stoller.
James Bobin, based on his work on those two movies, I would have been fine if he had stuck around for a while to be, like, the creative poobah of the Muppets. And
that's also assuming that they want that
even
kind
like
of
a Brett McKenzie.
Brett would have been great to continue working with the
Yeah.
Muppets. But, like, these guys are, like, the people we just named. They're writers, they're directors, they're musicians. Like, they might not want to have, like, an office job where they're making these executive decisions, because that's what that is. So
it requires a little bit of both, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
To be creative and to have a sense of business.
And that said, like I've spoken to, you know, the new head of Disney. I'm sorry, not Disney, of Muppets at Disney. And like, it seems like, you know, obviously
You got Bob Iger's
Bob
phone
Iger.
number.
Yeah, he's actually on this call right now. Bob, you want to say something? No,
Yeah.
he's shaking his head no.
Monitoring it.
Good. That's for the best.
Bringing you a coffee.
But you know, we like, it seems like that the new staff there has you know, good heads on their shoulders and good intentions for the characters and big dreams for what they want to see happen. And of course, COVID has paused a lot of things. I feel like we would be having a very different conversation now if it weren't for that. So, you know, that might already exist at Muppets and we just haven't seen the work yet. I think we'll know a lot more after we see the Haunted Mansion special coming out later this year. So we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic.
That's right.
As we always are.
Yes. Right. You guys bringing up the music, maybe I'm excited to talk to you about this little. I'm excited to talk to you about the Rainbow Connection, and your thoughts on how many times Matt has had to sing that in his tenure as Kermit.
Has he sung it at all since he's taken over the character?
Let me see.
He's singing
He's
it
literally-
right now.
You're probably right.
He's caught in a loop. He cannot
That's the
stop
thing.
singing it.
That's the thing. You joke, but he's probably
he's got the
recording it for some
TVA
appearance
just hitting the
right now. Yeah. I wrote an article, and this was like 2 or 3 years ago now, called why is there only one song about rainbows? About the fact that seemingly all Kermit the Frog ever does anymore is just go on, make appearances and sing Rainbow Connection. And yeah, since I wrote that, he's probably done it at least, I don't know, at least 5 more times, maybe probably more than that. It must be more
It's
than
gotta
that.
be. I mean,
Oh,
there was
easy.
there was that point
And-
recently where he sang it 3 times in a week.
Yeah, he sang it on that
They're doing it just to spite you at
I
this
think
point.
so. Yeah, and look, I love the song. Rainbow Connection is a great song. The problem
Sure.
is that when it's the only thing he ever does, it starts to lose its meaning. Like when you hear it a million times, you start to detach from the actual, how meaningful the words are and how beautiful the music is.
It's a shame because there's so many good Kermit songs. There's so many good Muppet
Well, and just so
songs.
many songs. Like there have been times when Kermit has just gone on shows and sung a pop song or a show tune or somebody else's song. He doesn't have to just sing this
Right.
one song every single time.
I'm on the Muppet Wiki trying to count how many
Right,
times
no,
he's
like,
done
I
it,
mean,
it's I keep losing
Oh,
count.
yeah.
There's so many.
Well, I had this idea. I decided this I wouldn't make an actual ToughPigs article, but like sort of trying to figure out how many appearances has Matt Vogel made as Kermit so far, and what percentage of those did he sing Rainbow Connection? Because I think it would be kind of crazy to see the actual number there.
Oh, it's like got to be 80% at
Something
least.
like that.
If I counted right,
Um,
I think he's done it 19 times since taking over.
And
the-
that's since what, 2017?
something like that. Yeah.
And if you look back,
2017.
Holy
if you look back at
cow.
that same Muppet Wiki
and
article,
Jim sang it like
that's
3
the thing.
times.
If you look back at the same Muppet Wiki article, Jim Henson did it like maybe 6 or 7.
Let's find out.
And then-
because he sang it in the Muppet movie and he sang it at the Oscars. And then on the Muppet Show,
Sang it on the Muppet
Right.
Show.
Debbie Harry. It looks like he sang it in the Muppet Show on tour in 1984.
Okay.
Ballroom full of Muppets and Muppets a celebration of 30 years, and then
Okay.
Muppets at Walt Disney World.
But did he even sing it, or was that just Raven Simone singing?
He sings with her.
Okay.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
He sang
it's
it
5
with-
times. He
Yeah,
sang
but
it.
it was a walk and talk.
Yeah.
Six.
So-
walk and
6
sing.
if you count the
Yeah.
2 times he sings it in the Muppet.
And there
movie.
might be some that we haven't documented yet, but even still, like when you compare the number of times Jim Henson did it to the number of times Steve Whitmire did it to the number of times Matt Vogel has already done it, it's like we're reaching some sort of, eventually he's going to be doing it once a day.
And we were talking about this recently on
a
the
meme,
Topics
yeah,
forum,
essentially, yeah.
just of like what else could Kermit sing, and I know there's weird rights things with Being Green because of the Raposos and Sesame Street, so like taking that out as that was formerly Kermit's signature song, and now it's Rainbow Connection. But like Ryan said, like he could literally be singing any song. He could be
Well,
picking.
somebody, I think this was on Facebook, one of our followers, somebody reminded us that I think it was in 2001 on the Jerry Lewis Labor Day Telethon, Kermit and the Two Snouths sang, "I've got my mind set on you," which is like, it has nothing to do with Kermit. You would, like, I don't know how they came up with the idea to have him sing it, but it's delightful. It's just Kermit sitting on a piano, dancing and playing the guitar and singing this pop song.
That's great.
It's great, yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of old Muppet and Sesame songs he could be singing. I think the tricky thing is that there's not many songs that are already like, if you want Kermit to sing a song, but you want him to sing the song that people know. Like people don't know this frog. They don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I love my elbows or whatever. and that's fine. They might not even know like Happy Feet, which I would consider to be a well-known Kermit song. So we either have to get more comfortable with Kermit singing literally any song, or we have to find a new song that Kermit can kind of pull out once in a while. That's going to be like kind of like when the Muppets used to sing Just One Person every once in a while. It wasn't like a signature song, but they did it just often enough that people consider that to be a Muppet song, despite the fact that it was written for You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, was it?
Snoopy, I think.
Was it for Snoopy?
The other
Snoopy-
Charlie
the
Brown
Snoopy
musical.
Gotcha.
musical.
Yeah. So like, there's a lot of options, but and of course, like we also recognize that like Disney probably owns that song outright. They probably have to pay nothing in royalties to use it. But that said, Disney owns a lot of songs.
I don't know. I'm suspicious of the royalties argument as justified. I mean, I don't know, but I have no idea.
I mean, I will
about
say from my own personal experience, it's not that royalties are too expensive for stuff like this. It's that it takes time and manpower for like a legal team to clear a song that you don't already own. And sometimes it's like, look, Kermit's going to be on Fallon tomorrow. Like, we don't have time to see if we can clear Got My Mind Set on You. You know, we just need to move forward.
It's so funny that you just said it takes time, because it takes time, a whole lot of precious time. Okay.
You guys didn't know that this podcast was a musical, and now
Right now we have to.
now,
clear
yeah,
it.
you got to pay.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
You can.
Well, and even he'd probably have to learn the song to some extent too. You know.
Oh, those guys are pros. You know,
Yeah,
it'd
sure,
take
yeah.
him a half a day.
He's a singer.
Yeah, Matt. I'm sure. You know, I've talked to Matt about this, and he's
I guess
talked
that's true.
about
It's your
how
job. Right?
you know he still feels so strongly about the song. He has a lot of personal emotions, personal connections to that song, rainbow
Great.
connections, maybe even. So like, he's okay with it, but I also think as a performer, and this is he didn't say this to me, I'm just guessing, but like as a performer, like you want variety. You know, you want, like, you're already playing this one character, and you're never, like, for most of your adult life from here on, you will only be playing this character. And you know, as an actor, as a singer, as an artist, like, you want to be able to do new things. I think you, Cam, as a puppeteer, you probably would agree with this. So like, he would probably love the chance to sing, be thrown a song and run with it. You know,
I did notice. So Kermit.
Well, what did he sing on the Masked Singer?
he sang
right?
the Hall Notes
I mean, like
song.
that was a cool.
I
yeah,
can't think of it because I'm only thinking.
You Make My Dreams Come True.
Yeah, you make my dreams come true. I can only think of Rainbow Connection at the moment. Yes, he's singing "You Make My Dreams Come True," but like, how obvious would it have been if the snail was singing Rainbow Connection?
That would have been hilarious, actually. But yeah, I did notice. So the most recent time that Kermit sang Rainbow Connection was on the PBS 4th of July special. And I noticed that Gladys Knight also appeared on that special, and she sang Midnight Train to Georgia. So, which, you know, I'm sure she's sung that a million times. She's probably sick of it. So at least it's not just Kermit.
That's true.
There are other people who have to do the same thing.
Right.
That's true. And you know who's sung it much more than him is Paul Williams, because Paul Williams sings Rainbow Connection at the end of every live show that he does, which means he's probably sung it hundreds and hundreds of times in front of audiences.
Yeah, and he seems to really love it. Like,
I hope so. Yeah, it's a great song. It is a great song, and I hate to.
That's the problem. That's the thing.
I don't want to complain about it.
I love the song.
Oh, right.
I love the song so much
That's
that
exactly
I don't
right.
want it to be cheapened by overuse.
Yeah. Well, and it also, like, how much of it too is, you know, I'm not even going to watch Kermit do that hypothetical Fallon appearance because I just saw him last week sing it on, you know, The View or
I
whatever.
literally
like,
I didn't
right?
watch
You know,
the Capital
it
Fourth
just,
appearance
it gives people
for that reason. I just didn't bother.
Same.
He also
Same.
did a few little cute, like moments of banter with Vanessa Williams.
Yeah, I probably should have watched that. Vanessa Williams, really?
Yeah, she was the host.
She's got Muppet connections too, doesn't she?
I'm sure she does.
She
Queen of Trash.
Yeah, she's
Probably
Queen
on
of Trash
Sesame
in
Street.
I'm on Groucho.
Oh yes, of course, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Do you think they talked about that?
I do, because
Oh, they definitely
Matt
did.
Vogel almost
They
certainly
definitely-
worked on Elmo and Grouchland, right? Wouldn't he
probably.
do it? Yeah. So.
But no, I mean
yes.
her and Kermit.
He did.
Oh, Kermit. The
I mean,
character?
Kermit wasn't
That
in
was-
Grouchland, but
Then yeah, I mean,
maybe.
yeah.
Do you think Kermit was like, I wasn't in that movie?
He was probably.
I don't
just
know
like,
you, lady.
Hey, so I hear you worked with my friend Elmo.
Maybe.
She was like, yeah.
I always wonder about things like this, like and I've asked Matt Vogel about this in an interview I did with him too. It's like when you meet, like, say, Elton John, and Elton's like, "Hey Kermit, remember me? Like, I was on the Muppet Show." He's got to be like, "Yep, so was I. I was there."
Well, I think it does help that Steve Whitmire did this too. That Matt Vogel is such a Muppet fan and knows so much about the history of the character, so he could probably be like, "Oh yes, of course I remember when you were on the Muppet Show. You did this song with Piggy, and you did this. You know, you did the Crocodile Rock with Real Crocodiles."
But I also have to recognize that, like, not all these performers have the same memories as folks like us, who
Right.
we can say, like, "Oh yeah, Vanessa Williams, Queen of Trash." Yeah, of course I knew
Well,
that.
I mean, it just took me. I didn't remember.
Yeah,
the
you would've
Queen of
gotten
Trash
there.
just now. I would have gotten there eventually.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, well, and that's such a good point too. Of, like, you know, for us, we watch the stuff over and over again, but for, you know, separate from, like, Matt, but, like, you know, Dave, that was just a day
That's
at
right.
work for him. Like, and you don't remember the reports you put together at your job 20 years ago. You know, it's just a different.
And for him,
kind of
it might have been.
And
relationship.
also,
It
you
worked
live it too. Like,
45 years
I'm sure
ago.
if two actors see each other after 20 years of doing a performance, they don't say, "Hey, remember when we did this?" It's just like you just experience it. Like you just
Right.
know.
Yeah, I
each
don't remember it.
other.
I lived
So,
it. Yeah, for sure.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he even watched it at all, right?
Yeah, that's right. A lot of actors don't even watch their
Yeah, I
own
don't know.
movies and stuff,
this has
right?
come up too with some of the puppeteers, where it's like we've asked them, like there was a big mystery for many years of who played Astoria, Statler's wife, in the Dizzy Gillespie episode of the Muppet Show, and it's always been a question mark. And we've asked the people who were there, and they're like, "I don't know, man. Like it could have been me. It could have been someone else. They probably just tossed a puppet to
Yeah.
somebody." So
I
yeah,
forget who did we ask, and they were like, "Yeah, it
it
might
was
have been
Steve.
It was Steve.
Yeah,
who said it. Yeah, it might have
Steve
been.
said it may have been
or
me.
Might have been Dave, or it might have been
Yeah.
Richard, or it might have been like he was.
Yeah,
He just didn't really.
it wasn't
have any
Richard.
specific
That's the only one we know
memory
it
of
wasn't.
There were
Oh,
6
right,
guys.
okay.
It was one of 6.
No, but that's the thing. It was. I'm gonna look it up.
Or like
'Cause-
in the Muppet movie, right? Of like who played Rolf or Kermit
Right.
for hope that
Yeah,
something
they have
better
no
comes
idea.
along.
So,
Oh, but
so
didn't
Astoria.
we find out
yeah,
who
like,
played the other Kermit?
Who knows?
Well, Astoria. Yeah, the other Kermit we found out was Dave Goles.
It was Dave, I thought. Yeah.
Astoria, for people who are curious, was played by Bob
Oh, okay.
Payne.
Yeah, the Muppet Wiki has gotten their hands on a lot of old episodes of Sesame Street that Bob Payne is confirmed to have worked on. So comparing his voices
Yeah.
from that to the voice of Astoria,
Got
they
it.
have concluded
Right.
that that's who that is.
So it was not one of the 6 guys. It was the 9th guy.
Right, it was the guy that they
Oh,
brought
man.
in sometimes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like a Bad Maury episode.
Right, yeah.
We have confirmed that the father was actually
Steve Whitmire, you are not the father.
Not the father of Astoria.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the podcast because you guys have mentioned a couple times about the interviews and such that you've done. I did want to talk because yesterday was actually the anniversary of you guys breaking some pretty big news with the recasting of
Wow.
Kermit.
Was it really the anniversary?
And I know that was
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was. Because it popped up on my Facebook memories. But can you
And he
talk
has a
about?
tattooed on his arm.
I do. I got the date.
I'm so
right
sorry.
here. No, but can you talk? No. Actually, we learned about that a little bit earlier, so we'd known about it
Right.
beforehand. But can you talk about like just because that was a huge event for
Yeah.
you guys? I mean, because you were actually reporting on the news as opposed to saying like, oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna review this thing or whatever. Like, how did you guys? How were you trusted with that news to break? And
And just to put it a little more, because you explained it to me, because I didn't even realize this until Cam told me the other day. But like news agencies found this out from
That's right.
you. Like you were.
We
That's what you're
literally
saying, right? Yeah.
broke the news, and as I said in a podcast interview recently, and then the news broke us. So basically, what happened was just like you,
right, because it shut down your
yeah,
site,
a little
right?
bit, yeah. But it also broke us emotionally. So what happened was we got wind of this news before the public. Probably the same way as you did, just like things leak in the community. We were talking to a couple of trusted sources, and then eventually we had it kind of unofficially confirmed. And we were basically just ready, like, okay, this thing's gonna break any day now. Be ready to push it out. Then I found out, and I don't remember how, but I found out that Disney's plan was because they were doing those weekly Muppet
The
moments.
Muppet Thought of the Week.
Yeah, that's it. Muppet Thought of the Week on YouTube, on social media. The plan was, Steve was being let go, and they were going to replace him with the new performer. Oh, and we'd also kind of heard about, again, unofficially, about so people were being auditioned and stuff like that. And we had found out that they were going to be just putting out a video of the new Kermit as one of those weekly Muppet moment things. And
without comment. Like they
No
were
commentary.
just going to put it out in
Yep.
the world and
exactly.
hope that nobody noticed or see if anybody noticed.
Right.
Or, yeah.
Now, some older Muppet fans may remember years ago there was an appearance of Kermit the Frog on America's Got Talent, and I think it was also like a red carpet thing with Lady Gaga the same weekend, and he's not being performed by Steve Whitmire.
Yeah, the MTV Movie
That
Awards
sounds
or
right.
something.
Yeah, he was not being performed by Steve Whitmire, and the fans were livid. Like they just exploded about this thing. And so I reached out to my press contact at Disney and I said, you know, from experience, we know this is not going to end well. And again, like we're not coming out as like, you know, pro or con any of the performers. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that like we don't want the fans to be angry about the Muppets. We don't like we want like if there is going to be a change that we as fans and as journalists cannot control, we at least want to be able to like help them do this in the best possible way that's not going to get people revolting against the franchise. So I reached out and I
Well, and it goes back to that one Muppet, one voice.
and that's where One Muppet One Voice really took off was to make sure that you know there was always that one performer performing that one character and that's it. So so I reached out to Disney and they basically agreed that it was not a good idea to just secretly release this. So we made like I got on a call with them and we made very strict parameters for what we would say and when we would say it. And basically we picked the day of when the news would drop. We said, you know, the news was Steve Whitmire is no longer Kermit the Frog. Matt Vogel is the new performer of Kermit the Frog. And here is when and how you'll see and hear the new Kermit for the first time, which was going to be one of those weekly Muppet videos. That's it. That's all the official news. And the benefit of it was that people could come to us with questions, but we don't have any more information. They can't go to Disney because they've already given us all the information they were willing to release. So that ideally was going to help with not too much follow-up, and this news would just kind of go out there. The fans can react, and then we'll move on with our lives.
Muppet Mindset was also on board.
We also got we got Muppet Mindset on board mainly because I believe I knew that Jared Fairclough and the Muppet Mindset also had this news, and I wanted to make sure that like he was telling the same narrative as us. So we worked together to make sure that like we're getting the word out,
and basically like clicking the post article button at the exact same time.
Exactly. So so I don't really need to talk about my personal life too much, but my father runs a crisis communications public relations firm. Like this is his job. This is what he does for a living. Is like there's big news. We help you figure out how to tell the story and how to send it to the press and et cetera, et cetera. So we knew like the key to this is getting our story out first. We didn't know at the time that Steve was going to go on to the news, the news programs and tell a different story. We just knew that like this was the narrative. This was the official narrative from us and from Disney. So we kind of tried to seed it out to a few news sources, and it just exploded. The problem became that Disney was unprepared for the size of this news. So not only was everyone pointing at us and shutting down our site basically because the news was so big, but when there was blowback from the fans, or when there was headlines saying Kermit the Frog's been fired, Disney wasn't prepared with a response. And that's when people were going to Steve, and Steve was responding, and nobody was debating him about it. It was just our 3 little bullet points and Steve's response of, I didn't want to leave the brand. I want to go back to the Muppets. I'm the only guy who can play Kermit the Frog, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously, like it took a while for Disney to get their response together, and then the Hensons got involved, and like the whole thing was just such a huge mess that at the time we thought
it was
it was awful. And like the 2 things that we were really hoping to get out of this was, number one, we were going to be taken slightly more seriously as a website that really provides all of the Muppet news that you need. Like, not that we ever wanted there to be something that size again, but like we're a bit more of an authority. And number 2, I thought this would be a really good opportunity to strengthen the bond between us and the public relations department at Disney. But because this exploded the way it did, it made us and Disney kind of butt heads a little bit. Like we broke the news and they got the flack. And that relationship at the time was very, very hard to repair. despite the fact that like we did work very closely with them on the messaging and the timing. We did everything. They agreed to everything that we did and said.
They might have still had the impression that the nerds were the only ones who would care about it.
That's exactly it. And what's interesting is now you cut to a few years later when Sesame Workshop was about to announce that Carol Spinney was retiring. They approached me to say, this isn't going to be a big deal, right? Like, we could just put it out there. And I had to say, let me tell you a story about the Steve Whitmire news. You don't know what's going to happen. Like, it just takes one person to write the headline that Sesame Workshop is firing Carol Spinney. And it's not true, but people aren't going to read the article. It's just a headline, and this is going to blow up in your face. And thank goodness they listened to me, and they were prepared with the appropriate response. And that his retirement was actually a really uplifting story. It's a guy who's been playing Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch for 50 years, and like, we're honoring him and we're carrying on his characters, and he's like still going to be a part of the company and of the franchise, and et cetera, et cetera. So like that was like,
and everything's
exactly
in the right hands.
So that's like almost the same story, but in the way that it worked out in the way it was intended. Whereas the Steve Whitmire, Kermit the Frog stuff, sorry, we call it internally, we call it the kerfuffle. The kerfuffle was just a mess, and still today, people on a regular basis are tweeting to us about the injustice of what happened. And I'm not going to comment on whether or not we agree with who was right and who was wrong, but it's definitely something where, like, now years later, we have to say, like, it's a thing that happened. We got to move on, because all we care about is the content. We want to make sure that the Muppets are making good stuff, that we know that Kermit's in good hands, because we know that Matt Vogel is a great performer, and he's a talented guy, and he just needs more opportunities to do things other than sing Rainbow Connection. And
I would say we don't not care about the performers or people's feelings.
No, okay, that's just fair. Yeah.
It's a strange position to be in.
Yeah, it is. And
the Muppets being successful is the greater good.
I was going to say, because that was always my position when people would ask me what I felt about it, is I'm Team Kermit. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not Team Disney or Team Steve or Team Matt or anything like that. Like, I just want Kermit to be as true to him as he can be in the instance where Jim Henson isn't around anymore.
Right. I guess there's a certain,
as long as the character could shine.
I think it could be misconstrued as having a certain heartlessness to say, like, oh, I only care about the content, or I only care about the character. But because we're fans of the performers as much as we're fans of the characters.
That's true. Yeah, we were just talking about, like, how great these people are to us. How talented they are, how good they are to the characters and to the franchises.
Yes. So
you're right, Ryan.
Ideally, I would love for everyone to be happy, but unfortunately, that in this particular case, it didn't turn out that way, and that is sad and unfortunate.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was shocked by how much it did shake up, like, everything. Like, I actually thought kind of like what I guess Disney thought, that it would just be mostly just like the Muppet nerds, people who like us who cared. And it really was. It was everywhere for a while.
Yeah, people really well.
And I think it still has ripple effects when there's any new.
It does. That's what I'm talking about. That's the stuff that people are writing to us.
The general public, I think, they don't think about Kermit all the time, but when they are suddenly reminded about Kermit, they're suddenly reminded that they love Kermit, and then in those moments, they care about him a lot.
And it's funny, like, looking at the last, I don't know, 10 plus years, 10, 15 years of these tent poles of news. It's 2011, the Muppets have a new movie. That was a big tent pole. 2015, when they did the promotional push with Kermit and Piggy breaking up, was a huge tent pole. This obviously, this Steve Whitmire, Matt Vogel, Kermit the Frog news was a huge tent pole. And these things kind of happen every few years where, like, this, it's not just that people are reminded, like, they see Kermit on a shelf or Kermit shows up on the Today Show or whatever. It's like these huge headlines that people really only care about the headline. And
and then it's like, what's happening with Kermit the Frog?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's when we get interviewed on, BBC radio
Yeah.
to go, what's happening? I'm like,
And
you got my number, man.
Hold on, settle down.
Yeah,
That's
right.
It's not as big a deal as you think.
So on to slightly lighter subjects.
Yes, please.
Can you guys talk about, because I've loved, away from the kermfuffle, you guys have really in the last couple of years done incredible work with the podcasts that you put out. And I think I've lost track of which one, like how many you have, because you're constantly generating new stuff. But I know that two of my favorites are to introduce our, is that right? To introduce our guest star and the Movin Right Along podcast that you both respectively host.
Ryan should definitely.
Can you just
start
talk
with
about
Movin Right Along, because that was our first real podcast.
Yeah,
please.
Well, as of now, we have 2 podcast feeds. One of them, if you want to look for them, one of them is Movin Right Along, a Muppet movie podcast, and the other one is called Muppet Fan Podcast with ToughPigs.com, and that's where basically it's a series of mini-series that Joe has been doing a lot of work on those. Movin Right Along just started because I was listening to Star Wars Minute, which is a great podcast by 2 Star Wars fans, where they watch all the movies and do commentary on them. They watch the movies 1 minute at a time. So every episode is talking about 1 minute of a Star Wars movie. And I thought it would be a fun idea to do something like that with the Muppet movies. We do 2 minutes at a time, which just helps us get through the movies a little quicker. So our friend and one of our contributors, Anthony Strand, is my co-host on that, and we're just about to finish Muppets Take Manhattan. So we've been doing it for about 3 years now, and it's a lot of fun. We usually have a guest. It's usually like one of our Muppet fan friends, but we've also had some pop culture critics and a few people who are actually puppeteers and such. I think we're gonna try to get a few more of those in the near future. But it's been a lot of fun.
It's my favorite podcast. I always say that.
I thank you.
I love it. Sorry guys, you're my third favorite podcast.
No, that's all right. That's fair. No, it's such a fun listen. And I'm anxious to know what the next film is going to be. If it's going to be Christmas Carol, or if you're going to go Follow That Bird, or something else.
No, I don't think we're going to do Follow That Bird 2 minutes at a time.
I wish you would. I love it so much. I know. It's up to you. I want to listen to it.
It's so good.
We're definitely going to talk about it, but we're the next full length movie that we're planning to do is Christmas Carol. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Just I think if it is possible for somebody such as myself to have an even greater appreciation for these movies, I think it's done that. And then also it's just so cool to notice little things that we've never noticed before. Like, oh wait, look at what that Muppet in the background of that shot is doing. Or, look at what that sign says that I never read that sign before.
And then on our other
to really dissect and go through
channel,
moment by moment.
So like Ryan said, it's called Muppet Fan Podcast with ToughPigs.com. The idea originally came because there was some podcast ideas that we had that we didn't think would really justify starting an entirely new channel. We only want to do 10 episodes, 15 episodes of this or that, and then stop, or maybe do more someday. I don't know. And we had all these ideas too that like I didn't want to ask anyone to have to subscribe to like 8 different podcast channels. That didn't make any sense to me. So it was a bit of an experiment. I think it's working out well, where we've kind of done these seasons of different podcasts, different Muppet related podcasts on one channel. So we started with 15 Seconds to Curtain, which is my series of celebrity interviews. There was a few people who I kind of had on a wait list that we knew that we wanted to work together. We knew we wanted to do some sort of interview, and I just was looking for a good time. And then I happened to meet Terry Fader, who you've had Terry Fader on your show, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I met Terry Fader.
You met him in person too.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. I met him, and he was super nice, and we were just kind of having a chat. And I went, you know what? You seem like a big Muppet fan. We should do an interview. So I grabbed my microphone, and we did a great interview with him. He was super, super generous with his time. And then I went, well, I guess I'm starting this project. So I very hurriedly, interviewed, Brad Meltzer and Dylan Postal, also known as Hornswoggle, and James Monroe Iglehart, who's played the genie on Broadway in Aladdin, and a few other folks that I'm just big fans of. And, this was my first podcast. So, trying to make sure that I get all the music right and the artwork and, credit sequence. And I hired someone to edit the whole thing for me and whatever. And it was just so much effort. And then, it didn't make a huge splash, which was a bit of a gut punch to my ego. But it definitely, I learned so much doing it. Not that I think the quality is there, but the audience did not show up. But the good thing is that the episodes are always there for people to go back and find. So we followed that up with Ryan and I wanted to re-review the 2015 Muppets sitcom. So we did the Muppets the sitcom, the podcast. And the nice thing about this was, because we were both so busy with other ToughPigs work and Ryan specifically with Movin Right Along, rather than co-hosting a podcast, we took turns hosting episodes. So that way we could split up the work a little bit more, spread out.
And if you listen and you don't like one of us, you can just skip to the next episode and
That's
it'll be
right.
the other one.
That's what I do, but I won't say which one of us I skip. And then while we were doing that, Jared Fairclough, who at this point we had started planning our merger with the Mindset, but it had not gone through yet. So we agreed, we're going to do a ToughPigs podcast with Jared, and his idea was that we would surprise each other with our special celebrity guests. So that show is called To Introduce Our Guest Star. We are in every episode, one of us is completely unprepared for who they are going to be interviewing, which means that these interviews are just completely off the cuff. We could be talking about anything. It's mostly Muppet performers, some writers, some songwriters. I won't spoil who we talk to, but that ended up being a really, really fun project to record.
Don't spoil it, but their names are all right there in the episode
Okay,
titles.
all right, fair enough. Well, then we got to do things too, so we for example, I interviewed Leslie Carrara Rudolph, who I've spoken to many times. We've interviewed her a couple times for the website, and so I realized in that moment of I got 2 minutes to prepare before she gets here, and I made the decision. I feel like we've talked to her, and everyone has talked to her about Abby Cadabby until they're blue in the face. Let's see how long we can go without mentioning Abby Cadabby. And so I'd say of the, I think it's 45-minute interview, we probably bring up Abby at the 35-minute mark. It's kind of remarkable how much there is to talk about when you take that one little bit out of the equation. So that series was a blast. I'm currently recording what the next season will be on that podcast channel. This one's going to be a little bit more navel gazing, because we're going to be celebrating our 20th anniversary very soon, and I wanted to do something that was going to be celebrating Toughpigs. So you'll see very soon what that is. That hopefully, I don't know when this podcast will launch, so it might already be up there. But if it's not, it's coming very, very
It's going to
soon.
be sometime in August.
Oh, sometime in August. Oh, so it's already out.
We wanted to be celebrating you guys.
Well, in that case, I'll tell you what it is. You can go back and listen to it.
Um,
It's so the podcast is called
Great.
ToughPigs at 20, and I am doing a series of interviews with every one of our main contributors that has worked on the site over the years. So we're starting with Danny Horn, who started the site.
Awesome.
I interviewed Chris Migliano, who created all the artwork for us. I interviewed this guy sitting right next to me, Ryan Rowe. You. And I'm going in order, from when everyone joined the ToughPigs team. So we're starting with Danny, and eventually we're going to be ending with Jared. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's so cool.
I hope that
can't
people
wait to
care
hear
about ToughPigs enough to listen to a whole podcast about ToughPigs.
Yeah, it'll be very similar to what we're doing right now, but spread out over 10
like
episodes.
15. No, it's 15. There's a lot of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well,
I'll listen to it.
No,
selfishly,
but
it's just a fun opportunity for me to talk to all my friends about Muppets and about this work that we do. And so far, everyone I've talked to has had really interesting stories about these things that we worked on years ago. These that fun project that I did that you probably don't remember because it was 2008. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a pretty fun podcast if you care about the state of internet Muppet fandom.
Well, and you guys, you've earned it too. That's, I think it's an important thing to do, to be able to really appreciate just all the work that you guys have done over the 20 years, and to really kind of give a shout out to all those folks. I'm sure people will listen and tune in, and I know I'll be listening. So,
also I think
really cool.
Something that a lot of people don't know or they don't think about is the fact that ToughPigs is completely volunteer. Ryan and I don't get paid, or Jared, our third partner, that we do not get paid for our time. Our contributors don't get much of anything in return. Sometimes, we'll get some free merchandise, and whoever reviews it keeps it. That's pretty much it. So we do our best to try and honor our team as much as we can. Whether it's doing stuff like podcasts or, I don't know, just giving them proper credit, proper shout outs, when we can, the opportunities of things like, joining us on a set visit or, talking to that Muppet performer or whatever it is. There's very little that we can do. And, it's also tricky because we just recently started a Patreon. So we're actually, the ToughPigs for the first time in 20 years is earning money for the very first time. But we are making it very clear that this money is not going into any of our pockets. This money is going right back into the website. The first thing that we're spending money on is getting a new design for toughpigs.com, because we've been using the same exact website design since 2009.
Since before everybody had a smartphone.
Yeah, so it looks awful on a phone. We apologize for that. But, so the first year or so of all of our Patreon donations is going right back into just the design of the website. And, until then, we're still paying out of pocket for, things like, our domain hosting and our, any merchandise we need to buy, any travel we make, any podcasting equipment we buy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all just because ToughPigs is nothing but this passion project that we care about so much that we would pay money to do this.
No, but I think that's really important, and speaks to your dedication and what you guys do, and it's totally earned after all this time. It's really, really wonderful.
Thank you.
So for your 20th year, what else can we look forward to, maybe, of other exciting things that you guys are doing to celebrate?
Well, we got a few things planned. Hopefully between now and when this podcast is released, we will have a few more things that that'll make it onto the site. The big stuff is we will have the podcast. We will have a new website design. We're going to be selling T-shirts for the first time. Keep an eye out for those. We will be presenting. Really, I think this is going to be the highlight of the 20th anniversary. This incredible art project. It's being head up by our good friend James Carroll, who, if you're in the Muppet fandom world, you would recognize his work. He designed the Muppetational Mosaic T-shirt, which is a picture of Kermit the Frog, Kermit's head, and then inside of Kermit is literally hundreds of drawings of different Muppets. You would probably recognize some of his other artwork.
He's worked on a lot of Muppet licensed projects.
Yeah, he was on the Palisades team way back.
He's
when.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Super talented guy. So
I was gonna say Palisades, and
and he is art directing a piece for us where we've recruited, I believe, around 70 Muppet fan artists who we have worked with over the years, or we just know, outside of the website. And James has created this amazing backdrop of the Muppet Theater and 123 Sesame Street and Fraggle Rock all kind of together in one image. And then we're having all these artists draw one or two Muppets that we're placing into the backdrop to make this epic Muppet mural. And again, like, everyone's volunteering their time. It's just, this shared love of Muppets, and celebrating our 20th anniversary. And I don't know if you remember our 10th anniversary 10 years ago. The highlight of that was also an art spotlight. We reached out to all of our artist friends and just asked them to draw something, and so we got this great collection of just some fantastic Muppet artwork. And so this is kind of the next step up. This isn't just everyone's drawing a picture. This is, dozens and dozens of people and hundreds of Muppets in this one big thing that just for us to enjoy.
It's a great way to celebrate the 10th anniversary of that 10th anniversary art piece.
It's true. So I think that's gonna be the spotlight. And then of course beyond that, like, we're gonna have some articles that are kind of looking back on some of our work and highlighting the talented folks that work or have worked with us on the site. Social media will be doing some fun stuff. We have a few social media accounts, including Muppet Quotes and One Muppetational Shot, that will be doing some fun stuff looking back on ToughPigs articles of the past. Am I forgetting anything that we've...
That's everything I can think of. I feel like I should be looking at the list, but I think that's...
Yeah, there will be more.
That's the big ones.
Yeah, there will be more than that, but that's the stuff that, like, I'm so grateful that we've been thinking about this for a while, because that art spotlight and the podcast and the website are things that, like, if you want to do that in August, you got to start that in February. And that's exactly what we've been doing. We've been working very hard for a long time.
Should we order a cake for the anniversary?
For just you and me?
Yeah, or whoever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you guys want to come over and have some cake?
Yeah, we'll send some slices of cake to our contributors.
Sure,
across the country.
You gotta get the cake just for the Instagram post.
Great. Yes. Right? I love it.
We'll order a cake too.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And we'll send you a picture.
Okay, so we'll coordinate everyone on August 13th,
right,
or whatever. We'll pick a day. Everyone just order a cake, and then at exactly...
I kind of like this
exactly
idea,
5:00 p.m., everyone's going to toast and take a bite.
I like this idea a lot.
There must be those little, like candy, like an Elmo head or something you can get at a bakery, right?
Oh, yeah. So I know that... what's the place that does the tiny cupcakes?
Oh,
I don't know.
What are they called? There's a few of them in
the tiny cupcake store.
They do these little tiny... It's just like one little bite of cupcake. They did a license with Sesame for the 50th anniversary, and they had, like, Elmo and Abby and Cookie Monster, Big Bird, Oscar flavors, but they were just like colored. Like the Oscar one was the mint green one.
Oh, so it doesn't taste like
Oscar.
Oh,
that's cool.
It does not taste like Oscar.
I thought you were talking about the Muppet cupcakes.
Oh
no, the Muppet cupcakes.
That everybody
now we have to talk about what Muppet cupcakes
sends
are.
you the picture that you get from your aunt.
Yes.
And if you're listening to this and you're feeling left out and you can't get a Muppet cupcake, go to Starbucks, get a cake pop, and we'll say it's a Muppet eye.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Nice.
Part of this.
I love cake pops.
There you go.
I feel like I need to know what the name of this tiny cupcake place is. It's going to drive me crazy. Baked by Melissa. That's it.
Oh, they have those?
Well, I don't know if they still do.
So, guys, this has been so wonderful, and it's so great to spend all this time talking with you. As I think you know, the way we wrap up the show is by asking folks if they have a good puppeteer story of a time when something didn't go right in what they were creating, that now you could look back on it and have a good laugh about it. I wonder if you guys have a ToughPigs experience, or if not, if you just have a funny puppeteer story that maybe you've heard from performers or anything.
Or if you've been on set to something and you saw something happen.
Yeah. However you want to interpret it. We'd love if you have a good puppeteer blooper story.
That's interesting. I should have thought more in advance about something like that.
I got one while you're thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell this story, and I'm horribly embarrassed by it. And I'm going to say it, and maybe this will be like my therapy, and it will help me to not haunt my dreams anymore. So a bunch of years ago, we did a project with the Jim Henson Company called Unboxing with the Henson Company. And this was Ryan and myself, our good friend Dave Hulteen, who's another talented Muppet fan artist, and Dave's buddy Jeremy Green. Basically, the Henson Company invited us to their offices in Long Island City in New York, and the archivist Karen Falk had a series of boxes that they knew what was inside, but we didn't. You know,
a lot of this stuff was soon to go into the Museum of the Moving Image,
right.
Permanent Jim Henson Gallery.
Right. So every episode we're opening up a different box.
You guys saw like the Muppet Show sign and some
Thog's
like,
sweater,
costumes, and
it was incredible. Like the whole series was just a blast. So we find out while we're there that Karen has organized to have some celebrity guests show up. So one of whom, for example, was Cheryl Henson, who showed us some of the outfits that they created for a Dark Crystal inspired fashion line or fashion show. I don't remember if
it was
sold them.
when the Dark Crystal came out, they made this Dark Crystal fashion line that apparently didn't sell very well, but they still kind of felt like it was a cool exercise to design and sell these clothes.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the embarrassing part. So Karen says, all right, we've got a special guest to here. We're also like we're in this office that's also, it doubles as the Muppet workshop. This is where all the builders are, and they're working on the machines in the back. And she's standing there with Raleigh Cruson, and she says, all right, we have another special guest for this next segment. And I look right at Raleigh and I go, who is it? and Raleigh's like, well, it's me. And I go, oh my God, I just thought you were working here. I didn't know you were going to be in our video. I thought you were going to bring like another Henson out. I was so horribly embarrassed. And I think about that every freaking day.
Well,
is that just a nightmare?
I don't actually remember.
I'm sorry.
That.
If Raleigh's
Zoe,
listening to this, I'm so sorry, Raleigh.
Yeah, she was such a nice person.
She's incredible, and what a talent, and what a dick move I made, man.
Well, I don't remember that happening. Maybe she doesn't.
I hope not, because she was also great in the video. She showed us the original patterns from the Fraggle Rock puppets. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh man.
I don't know if I have anything that can top that. I'm just thinking about like website stuff. So obviously none of what we're talking about is very important in the grand scheme of things, and like
it's not.
we've said a lot of words about ourselves and what we do and the things we write, but like people read our website not because they like us or because they're fans of us, but it's because they're fans of the Muppets and all this stuff. But as long as we are talking about this website stuff, one of the struggles that we commiserate about a lot is the fact that it always seems like you can spend weeks like researching, finding the perfect photos, writing, rewriting,
photoshopping, and researching.
A very detailed, long, really well thought out article that you put so much time and effort into. You post it, you put it on social media, it gets a few likes, and then like the next day, maybe you post a picture of Gonzo, and you're like, "Hey, it's Gonzo," and that. Like it explodes. That gets 790 likes in the first hour, and people are sharing it left and right.
Brilliant. That is Gonzo. I agree.
So
I must tell my friends that this is Gonzo.
Yes, but then every once in a while there are those times when we come up with an article and it does catch on. So that makes it all worth it.
Yeah,
but
it's funny. I often
that lightning in a bottle.
often say like I forget that people are reading the things that we write. And sometimes it's because things don't take off on social media like we think they might, and sometimes it's just the fact of the matter that we're making stuff in our homes and we're just hitting a button and it's published and it's out in the world, and we don't see anything come back at us. So it's always really satisfying when something does catch on.
Yeah.
Or when people like you guys want to talk to us about the work that we've done, or we do get those personal messages of someone saying like that thing that you wrote really meant a lot to me, or I really love the podcast, or whatever it is, because we just this website on our end very much exists in a bubble, and on outside of us it exists in the world, and it's very hard to reconcile that.
And social media can be cruel.
That is true. Way. Yeah, going way back to our conversation about SEO.
That is very true.
Like good luck figuring out how to get these things to trend on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah,
it's hard is what I'm saying. It's really hard running a Muppet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So That's great. Well, those are great stories. But what's the best way for people to follow everything you guys
you can't.
are doing?
We've closed it all down for the 20th. it's over.
That was the surprise.
Farewell, everybody.
20 years, that's it. We're good. We're done. ToughPigs.com on the internet. We are also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Are we anywhere else that we're actively?
We sometimes post stuff on YouTube if you want to follow us there.
Oh yeah, we do.
We do that
occasionally.
We also
and that's all at
Tough
Pigs?
Pigs for all that stuff. And we are also, like I said earlier, we have a Patreon. If you like us enough to throw us a few bucks, you can find us at patreon.com/toughpigs. We have some interesting perks that we can throw back at you for your kind donation. But yeah, other than that, everything goes right on to toughpigs.com. It's all out there for you to see.
And please do.
Oh my God, please do.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thanks so much. This is great.
Well, Joe Hennes and Ryan Rowe, thank you so much for joining us on Puppeteers. And thank you for all you do with Tough Pigs.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for listening to us prattle on.
And thank you guys for all the work that you do, just kind of keeping puppetry alive and in the forefront of everyone's minds, and putting a spotlight on these talented people who, by definition of their jobs, are never in the spotlight.
Yeah, it's so cool that there are shows like yours to document all these people and their stories.
Oh, well, thank you.
We're honored to do it.
Yeah.
So thanks so
Absolutely.
much, guys.
Honored.
Don't stop.
Right.
Don't let this be your series finale.
Right.
No, we won't. We won't. Thanks, guys. We're at the end of another episode of Puppeteers, but the fun doesn't stop here.
Visit puppeteers.com for show notes and links to projects mentioned in this episode.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at PuppeteersPod, where we're posting new things every day.
Puppeteers is edited by Matt Bowen and made possible thanks to viewers like you.
If you enjoy this content, you can join our incredible Patreon patrons who are supporting the show for as little as $1 per episode. Those folks get access to early releases, uncut episodes, official Cup O tiers just like we use on the show, and could even submit interview questions for our guests. Go to patreon.com/puppeteerspod to learn more.
Another great way to support Puppeteers is rating and reviewing us on iTunes, leaving a comment or subscribing to this channel, or tell a friend about your favorite episode.
Thanks again for joining us on Puppeteers Puppetry Shop Talk, in-depth interviews with the world's most passionate puppeteers.
Hosted by me, Adam Krutinger.
And me, Cameron Garrity.
Look at like Winnie the Pooh is a good example where there is some really high-end stuff, paintings and sculptures and glass and collector's items. But then there's also, beyond the stuff for kids, there's stuff all through any price range of merchandise. The cheap, the medium, the expensive, the crazy expensive. And for Muppets, we have the crazy expensive, and then we've got those 3 or 4 items that have been around forever. Like the couple of the plush, a couple of the, like you said, pencils and antenna toppers and stuff like that. And that's kind of it.
So basically you think Disney should poo the Muppets?
They definitely should poo the Muppets. I'm a big advocate of pooing.
Some would argue that that's what they're doing right now.
Hey.